Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the resignation of Justin Trudeau. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Justin Pierre James Trudeau was born on December 25, 1971, in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. His father Pierre was the Prime Minister of Canada, and his mother Margaret was an activist. His parents separated in 1977. In 1994, Justin graduated from college with a bachelor's degree in literature. In 1998, he earned a second bachelor's degree, this time in education. Justin used his degrees to teach at a high school in Vancouver until 2001. In 2008, Justin launched his political career by being elected to the House of Commons. In 2013, he was elected leader of the Liberal Party. 2 years later, Justin led his party to a majority government and became the Prime Minister of Canada on November 4, 2015. He was the first child of a Canadian Prime Minister to later become Prime Minister himself. In 2019, the Liberal Party was reduced to a minority government, and Justin continued to serve as Prime Minister. Justin triggered a national vote in 2021, hoping that Canadians would reward his government for the way it handled the COVID-19 pandemic. He ended up with another minority government. By 2024, the popularity of Justin and the rest of the Liberal Party had eroded severely. The party had suffered many losses, including seats that were believed to be completely safe. The polls indicated the future of the party was grim. Conservatives were leading Liberals by 25 points. When Justin was first elected, his approval rating was 63%. It dropped to 28%. Some polls had it as low as 16%. This left some people wondering, who are the 16%? How could it be this high? As this was going on, President-elect Donald Trump threatened to impose a 25% tariff against Canada. Donald wants the Canadian government to stop the flow of drugs and immigrants into the United States. The tariff will be a penalty for refusing to cooperate and is understandably frightening to many Canadians due to the drastic economic implications. Toward the end of 2024, many people resigned from Justin's cabinet, including the Deputy Prime Minister. She stated that Justin engaged in costly political gimmicks and was not prepared to face the challenge posed by Donald Trump. Over 50 Liberal members of Parliament asked Justin Trudeau to resign, but he claimed that his party was strong and united. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. On January 6, 2025, Justin Trudeau held a news conference. He claimed that he was a fighter, and every bone in his body has always told him to fight. Justin said, quote, "This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I am having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option," unquote. He indicated that he would resign as leader of the Liberal Party and as Prime Minister of Canada. He continued by saying, quote, "I truly feel that removing the contention around my own continued leadership is an opportunity to bring the temperature down," unquote. Justin plans on serving as Prime Minister until the Liberal Party elects its new leader. Some politicians reacted to the announcement by focusing on how unpopular Justin was. Others implied that his entire party was doomed. Now moving to my analysis. At the beginning of Justin's political career, he was considered pretty popular. The Liberal Party was in a lot of trouble back then, and they looked to Justin for leadership. This, of course, doesn't mean that everybody liked him. Some people were worried that his popularity was due to his celebrity status. Again, his father had been Prime Minister. There were also concerns that Justin appeared to be hollow and superficial. There was no substance to him. He didn't seem to know where he stood on important issues like foreign policy and the economy. Despite this, he was successful and rose to power. For the first few years, many Canadians remained excited about Justin as Prime Minister. He implemented some of the programs that he promised, but then things started to go sideways. For example, Justin was accused of being a fake feminist, was called an imposter, and failed to repair the government's relationship with the Indigenous people of Canada as he promised. One of his most unpopular moves involved immigration. Under his leadership, immigration spiraled out of control. The country was not equipped to handle a large number of immigrants. A tremendous strain was placed on government services, a housing shortage developed, and housing prices skyrocketed. Inflation also increased dramatically. There was a cost of living crisis across Canada. As if this wasn't bad enough, unemployment rose to 6%. Instead of addressing these problems, Justin decided it was more important to legalize recreational cannabis and institute a carbon tax. Many Canadians wondered if he understood the gravity of the situation. Why wasn't he focusing on the main problems? His behavior was confusing. It was like he did not take his job seriously. People started to refer to Justin as arrogant, hypocritical, sanctimonious, and fixated on his image. Eventually, Justin scaled back the immigration initiative, but the damage was already done. Justin also faced other scandals during his time as Prime Minister. A few examples. In 2017, an ethics commissioner reported that Justin violated 4 provisions of the Conflict of Interest Act. Justin had accepted a vacation to a private island in the Bahamas in 2016. He was the first Prime Minister in Canadian history to commit these violations. In September 2019, controversial images and videos were published showing Justin in brownface and blackface from years earlier. Referring to one incident in 2001, he said that he didn't think it was racist at the time. People started wondering if he was really a progressive, or was this all an act? During the presidency of Donald Trump, Justin did not fare well in negotiations over trade. Justin was perceived as weak. He never seemed to take a stand. Conservatives didn't like Justin because he was liberal, and liberals didn't like him because he failed to deliver changes based on progressive values. Justin reinforced his image as someone who was ineffective and frightened when he invoked the Emergencies Act during the Freedom Convoy incident in 2022. This was a protest involving a number of truckers who blocked key routes in Canada. Later, a federal court ruled that the invocation of the Emergencies Act was not justified. Eventually, Justin realized he was not an effective leader, or at least acknowledged that was the perception held by the majority of Canadians. Nothing was going to change the way people felt about him. The pressure from Donald Trump probably accelerated Justin's decision to resign. The United States is Canada's largest trading partner. The U.S. has a $6 billion deficit in this relationship. Canada is dependent on exports to the U.S., especially automobiles and oil. The threat of a 25% tariff is terrifying. It would result in financial ruin for Canada. Donald will not impose the tariff if Canada secures the border, but that goes against Justin's beliefs. Justin decided to leave that problem for somebody else to work on. In the end, Justin will be okay. His net worth is $10 million, mostly due to inherited wealth. I think this case exemplifies how a political leader must have some understanding of financial reality in order to be successful in the long run. Justin wanted to implement progressive policies, but had no idea how much they would cost. He also didn't understand how his policies would create a housing shortage. Justin believed he could just add hundreds of thousands of immigrants to Canada without any financial consequences. When he attempted to reverse course, he was criticized by his own party. Justin made a mistake from which he could not recover. He backed himself into a corner. I don't think there was any way he was going to remain popular. His initiatives were too extreme and not economically feasible. Justin lacked many of the skills necessary to be a good leader. He was not competent, he was not realistic, and he did not have a firm understanding of the issues. Some people who criticized Justin early on talked about how he had been handed everything in his life. This was an area of concern. He never had this important developmental opportunity. There was no chance for him to appreciate the challenges faced by regular people. Maybe these critics were onto something. There is a value to learning something for yourself. Without this educational experience, Justin was left ill-prepared. The legacy of Justin Trudeau will probably be a leader who failed due to his incompetence, but it's critical to remember the role of his arrogance. Moving to my last question, there has been some talk by Donald Trump about Canada joining the United States as the 51st state. Part of this may just be for humor value, but is this realistic? Could this actually happen, and what would be the consequences if it did? The majority of Canadians may be unhappy with Justin Trudeau, but that doesn't mean they're unhappy with their national identity. For a country to dissolve and join another country, there must be extreme dynamics at work. That's a pretty big commitment. Most people don't think about solving problems by dissolving nations. It's one thing to believe that inflation is too high or immigration is out of control. It's something entirely different to say, let's just give up on the entire country. Let's just give up on the whole idea that there's a Canada. Canadians can probably get what they want simply by voting for politicians who promote their desired values. There's no need to give up completely on the idea of being a country. I imagine that most Canadians would be very much against joining the U.S. However, what would happen if they did? Well, in my opinion, it would not be good news for Republicans. The population of Canada is about 40 million people, close to the population of California, although the population density in Canada is much lower. So roughly the same number of people, but spread over a much larger area. The majority of Canadians tend to lean liberal or progressive. This would greatly shift the electoral map in favor of Democrats. It would be similar to adding another California to the United States, a massive and immovable blue state. It would be very difficult for a Republican to be elected president after the addition of Canada as a state. Donald Trump appears to be interested in expanding the United States. He's not only talking about the statehood issue with Canada, but he has mentioned buying Greenland and taking over the Panama Canal. He may want to take a moment to learn something from the failure of Justin Trudeau. It's important to calculate the numbers before making big moves. Those are my thoughts on the resignation of Justin Trudeau. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.